Welcome to Tar Takes. It is May 6th, and we are grateful to have you watching today. This is Ryan Lipton alongside David Matlock. And let's dive in. Let's talk NBA, let's talk NFL, and let's talk some Tar Heels. So, first off, who is your rookie of the year in the NBA? Just quick before we begin, I think we're going to be talking a little bit about the playoffs in this, using it when the real NBA Rookie of the Year comes out. They're only taking into account the regular season. We will be taking into account both. So it's not who we think will actually win, but if we had to give the best rookie, this is what we'll give. David, what are you thinking?
Obviously, the top of the debate, we've got Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons. Want to give an honorable mention to Jason Tatum because the kid's been doing a great job, especially through the playoffs, carrying that team, helping carry that team around. Donovan Mitchell is going to be my rookie of the year because no one was expecting this team to be a playoff team. Everyone was expecting this was probably going to be a down year. Maybe they should look for a lottery pick. They lost Gordon Hayward. Well, maybe not lottery pick. They had Rudy Gobert, but they were like, we don't have our guy anymore. But Ricky Rubio is giving them some returns, but Donovan Mitchell is their number one scorer. He's averaging 20.5 points a game, 3.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, a steal and a half, and 0.3 blocks, and 2.7 turnovers a game. Made the Utah Jazz the fifth in the West when they were not expecting to make the playoffs. 80% free throw percentage, 34% from three, 43.7% from the floor, and he was this year's dunk champion. He's the number one scoring option for that team. I have to give Rookie of the Year to Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it is also Donovan Mitchell. I don't think you're going to really look at the stats and give it to Donovan Mitchell with Ben Simmons, right? 16 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists per game in the regular season. That's tough to match. He's almost averaging a triple-double. Donovan, only 20.5 points, close to 4 assists and 4 rebounds per game. But I think the difference becomes in the playoffs. Both teams saw their success early. You had Utah was able to beat OKC in 6, and you saw Philly handle Miami. But it sort of flip-flopped in the next round. Houston sort of taking control over Utah, but Utah was still able to get that one win. Ben Simmons had that horrible playoff game where he had 1 point, and they're looking at a sweep with the Boston Celtics Game 4, which is right around the corner tomorrow night. But there's two main things. Donovan Mitchell has been the number one guy, like David has said, in the playoffs, in the Western Conference, right? He's not playing Eastern Conference opponents. He's not playing Miami, right? Just look at the difference here. In the first round, Donovan Mitchell had to go up against Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, Steven Adams, right? If you look at Ben Simmons, he had to go up against Miami. He also has the help of Joel Embiid and a little bit better of a supporting
In defense
cast.
of Ben Simmons, I mean, just to give us a recap of, all that he's done. I mean, he was, as Ryan said, averaging 15.8 points a game, 8.1 rebounds, 8.2 assists a game, 1.7 steals, and almost an entire block a game. And he shot 56% from free throw, but he shot 55% from the field. But when Joel Embiid went down with that injury, they were in the middle of a what would become a 17-game win streak. And without Joel Embiid, they went 9-0. However, 13 of those teams were not playoff teams. Ben Simmons is not a rookie. I mean, we can say he is a rookie because he didn't play a game his rookie year. He's not a rookie. He's had NBA-level talent, coaches around him for an entire season. While he was hurt, they gave him a full rest time. I mean, the guy's been doing workouts. I mean, if he can just get a jump shot, he's going to be LeBron 2.0. I mean, watching him go for a dunk, he damn well looks like LeBron when he goes for that tomahawk. But Ben Simmons can't score from anywhere outside of 10 feet. I feel like he's not the number one scoring option, and he has that crutch in Joel Embiid. I have to go with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think tougher schedule with Donovan Mitchell and having to carry more of his team, also being an actual first year out of college, unlike Ben Simmons. There's also one thing I sort of want to touch on that you're sort of seeing, which is interesting. It's not really Simmons versus Mitchell, but it's more just rookies against the NBA. And it's interesting what you see is Mitchell really he's been averaging almost 25 points per game in the playoffs, but against the Rockets, top-tier competition. They play the Rockets tonight. Obviously, when this is posted, this will be after the game. We don't know what's happened. You guys will. But Donovan Mitchell, only 21 points, 17 points, and 10 points against Houston. You saw him go off against OKC, a little bit lower level of competition, whereas Ben Simmons against a high-level team, high-caliber team, 18 points, 1 point, 16 points. So their production is going down. I think you're really seeing how tough it is to be in the NBA playoffs as a rookie and perform well. And I also think that's why you have to appreciate what Ben Simmons and what Donovan Mitchell did earlier, which is just so amazing how there was almost no drop-off between the regular season and the playoffs. You saw Mitchell 4 points per game more. It's amazing what these guys are doing.
I think we're going to look back on these rookies as one of the better draft classes we've had in a long time. I mean, Jason Tatum. I'm a Lakers fan, but man, Jason Tatum, he is so good. That was an excellent pick.
And you still got Lonzo, could turn into something pretty well, but
Lonzo needs to work on his body, and then Markelle Fultz needs to get over this voodoo curse that he has on his jump shot.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who wins, those two guys, incredible to watch. What they're doing, absolutely amazing. Let's stay with the NBA. Another interesting debate going on here. Who is your NBA Coach of the Year? A lot has changed in the past 2 weeks. You might have had Toronto coming in. I would assure you definitely don't have Toronto now. But, David, who is your NBA Coach of the Year?
All right, I'm just going to put down on my list of candidates. Before I do that, I want some honorable mentions. Spoelstra, I would like to say Mike Spoelstra did a great job with that Miami team. The Miami team was below the league average, I believe, in offense, yet they were still a top 10 defense in the league, maybe even top 6. I think they were 6th in the league. He did a great job with that team. They had an all-star in Goran Dragic, but Dragic isn't really an all-star caliber player. Still did a decent job getting to the playoffs, even though it is a weak Eastern Conference. Mike D'Antoni, I mean, they got Chris Paul, but still, I mean, when you have the #1 record in the NBA, I think you at least need to be somewhat considered for it. And then Brett Brown of the Philadelphia 76ers, because they ended up being 3rd in the conference. All right, now to my candidates. I have Dwayne Casey, Brad Stevens, Greg Popovich, and Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan was 4th. The Pacers were 4th in the NBA for defenses. Brad Stevens, 3rd-ranked defense. Dwayne Casey, 9th-ranked defense and 4th-ranked offense. And Popovich, probably his greatest coaching job ever, holding a team together with toothpick, paper clips, and bubble gum. Greg Popovich had the #1 ranked defense in the NBA, and he got them to the playoffs and took the Warriors. Did he take them down 1 or 2 games? Well, he wasn't coaching one of them, but anyway, still, they got to the playoffs. My coach of the year is Brad Stevens. Kyrie Irving was the guy after Gordon Hayward went down at the beginning of the season. We were like, oh no, the Boston experience failed. I mean, what did you think when Gordon Hayward went down? What was your thoughts on the Celtics season?
Personally, I thought they would be the 2 behind Cleveland, but they couldn't get past Cleveland. Except after the whole Isaiah Thomas, at the middle of the year, say, well, with Kyrie, probably we'll get past Cleveland. But then Cleveland got a little bit better, and Kyrie got hurt. But I would have said they would have been the 2 right behind Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible job from Brad Stevens.
Then not only did Gordon Hayward's ankle get turned all the way backwards, not only did Kyrie Irving, towards the end of the season, when they were competing for the #1 seed with Toronto, go out because of knee surgery. In the first round of the playoffs, they did not have Jaylen Brown for most of that series. Marcus Morris didn't come back for most of that series. And they still took the Bucks with one of the top 5 talents, a top 5, top 10 talent in Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton playing extremely well. And they're on the brink of sweeping the 76ers with a generational talent in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And it's like, well, someone gets hurt. Well, we've got another guy to come up. Maybe it's just the Celtics have way better players than we thought. No, Brad Stevens is probably the best coach in the NBA. I don't know how he's done it. He's just an excellent coach.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. I think for the top 3 best coaches, I think there's Kerr. I think there's Popovich, and I think there's Stevens.
Kerr's team basically running itself. I mean, Kerr's a great coach, but I mean.
Yeah, Stevens is doing an impressive job for the entire year. Obviously, losing Hayward, losing Kyrie. I mean, he's about to sweep the 76ers in a Eastern Conference semifinal series. That's just amazingly impressive without two superstars.
Not to mention that play at the end of that game last night. I mean, that was a beautifully designed play.
You're without your two superstars, and you're playing a team that's up and coming in the Sixers. That's tough to get by. However, I will say this with Brad Stevens. He is not going to be my coach of the year right now. I will have one in the Western Conference. So I'll get to him in a second. But Stevens, he had to get through Giannis, which hasn't had a lot of playoff experience. I've never been worried about Milwaukee. It was sort of tough. It took them 7 games to get by them. So I don't find that impressive. I do find being up 3-0 over the Sixers as pretty impressive, but I don't think it's insanely impressive yet just because Embiid and Simmons and that team just has no playoff experience. It was only 2 years ago that, they were in the bottom of the league. I mean, last year they were in the bottom of the league. They had a run in the middle of the season, but they were towards the bottom. So the Sixers have no experience, so I would hold your horses on the Brad Stevens Coach of the Year. I think what he's doing is amazing. I would take him top 3 coaches in the league easy. But for this 1 year, I think you have to go to the West. It has to be Mike D'Antoni.
I mean, he was it last year. I mean, you can't do that when you add another historic generational talent at point guard. I mean,
right, but my thought process on Houston is obviously you won't be able to tell until they play the Warriors. That series is going to come up. It's going to be pretty much that will be the NBA Finals. Whoever wins that will go on and win the NBA Finals. And if D'Antoni does beat the Warriors, and I think hands down Coach of the Year, easy, lock it up, give it to him, seal it, send it, whatever. He would be the Coach of the Year. But we don't know what they're going to do against the Warriors yet. But I still think you have to think how impressive of a job D'Antoni has done. They've taken down the Warriors in terms of the regular season. Yes, the Warriors had a lot of injuries. Personally, I still don't think they're going to beat the Warriors if they face them in the next round, which they probably will. But D'Antoni, this is the most impressive thing, right? The Rockets have always been up there in the Western Conference since they got in Harden, but defensively they've sucked. But this year is a different team. They're second in the NBA in terms of defensive rating behind the Golden State Warriors. You can look it up, NBA Advanced Stats. So they're near the top of the league on defense. This might have to do with Chris Paul, but it can't only be Chris Paul. There has to be something that D'Antoni's doing, and you're seeing just a much more well-rounded Houston team that you haven't seen, and that's why people are taking them as serious threats to win an NBA Finals. Before, you've never seen that. Now, yes, due to Chris Paul, but also due to D'Antoni. Right. And I would still take Brad Stevens as my coach over D'Antoni, but for this year, for right now, until they lose to the Warriors, I think it has to be D'Antoni.
I mean, if we're arguing for Coach of the Year, though, we have to, of course, how the team's performing needs to be taken into account. But, the personnel that they're working with, Popovich having top-ranked defense with no one in that. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is the only scorer that they have. But Brad Stevens, even with his top 2 players going down, and he was without Jaylen Brown and Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart for so long while they've been in the playoffs, he still managed to keep this team not only afloat, but they're soaring through these playoffs right now. When you have to consider personnel for this. D'Antoni, he won Coach of the Year last year. But he's also added Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a top 3 point guard in the league.
Stevens added Kyrie Irving from us here. I get
Kyrie's hurt. Kyrie's hurt. He's not playing right now. And then we have Eric Gordon. We've got Trevor Ariza. We've got Clint Capella on that team. Those guys, James Harden. These guys are well recognized athletes. Al Horford's an all-star, but Al Horford is the bottom tier of the all-stars. Terry Rozier, he's coming off and he's playing Kyrie 2.0 on the court. Jason Tatum, excellent talent. Jaylen Brown, how he's maneuvering this talent around this team and he's maximizing everyone's potential, I think you have to go with Brad Stevens as the coach of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Stevens is the better coach, and I think you can't underestimate what he's doing. It's incredible, but I think people are overlooking D'Antoni, and I think that's the point is Houston's playing really good defense. You've never seen that from James Harden and the Houston Rockets. So that by itself, I mean, if you think about it, that's really the only thing D'Antoni needed to do is fix the defense. The offense with Harden and Paul, going to be great. It's the defensive side. Okay. So let's move on to the NFL. Even though it's the offseason, there's still some big-time news being made. In Atlanta just signed Matt Ryan to a 5-year contract extension worth $150 million. The big number, though, $100 million guaranteed. He is the richest quarterback in NFL history. Is Matt Ryan deserving of this contract?
Yes. Matt Ryan is deserving of this contract. We had Kirk Cousins this year come through with a 3-year, $84 million, fully guaranteed contract from the Minnesota Vikings. That's $28 million a year from a guy who is not a former MVP, who has not had a playoff win in his entire career, who has been accused of only playing for stats. And I mean, Matt Ryan, he's proven that he can produce as a quarterback. Matt Ryan was top 5 in total QBR this past season. Top 5 in total QBR. He was the 2016 league MVP. Just astronomical numbers from the past year. And I think he's very deserving. And in this league, once you find your franchise guy, you've got to stick with that guy. And I think we had to keep Matt Ryan with this. I mean, we had Kirk Cousins with $84 million. Jimmy Garoppolo has made 7 career starts. And he is getting $27.5 million a year on a $137 million contract with $74 million guaranteed. Matthew Stafford has $27 million a year on his contract. When was the last time the Lions won a playoff game? Carr, $25 million a year. I think Derek Carr is very deserving of that money. He's a solid player, but the Falcons have a much better playoff history. Forget about 28-3. Drew Brees, $25 million, but Drew Brees is almost out the door. But in his heyday, he definitely was deserving of more money. And then Andrew Luck is making $24.5 million a year, and he hasn't so much as tasted grass in the past 2 years. I think Matt Ryan is definitely deserving of this contract. It's just resetting the market. It's just once we see that someone like Kirk Cousins is getting $28 million a year, Matt Ryan's agent would be an absolute fool not to be able to give him $30 million a year. And I think that we locked up our QB for the future in the Falcons.
Yeah, when you're talking about NFL quarterbacks and contracts, the whole question of what is deserving doesn't really add up, right? Matt Ryan got what he's worth on the open market. It doesn't matter if you have a franchise quarterback that is going to be a free agent, they will reset the market. It happened every single time. Happened with Derek Carr, happened then with Stafford, Garoppolo, Cousins, and now Matt Ryan. So that's just what a franchise quarterback is worth. It's worth top dollar. And I don't think we're going to sit here and say Matt Ryan's the top quarterback in the league. No, nor is Kirk Cousins, nor is Garoppolo, Stafford, Brees, Carr,
top 5
all the way,
all
the way down. So you can't really look at contract numbers and associate that with play on the field. Slightly, but you can't correlate it with top contract equals top quarterback. Obviously, that doesn't work. And I will say this: I think Matt Ryan is deserving of the $30 million. He's the next franchise quarterback on the market, but I do think it is a little worrisome for the Falcons. If you're spending $30 million on the quarterback position, you're not going to have enough money to go around and help the other positions. For
our team, we have a young defense right now, and we're still going to have those young contracts for a while, and then we have Julio locked up for a couple more years. Continue with your point, but
I think the issue is when you're paying a quarterback this much money, you need to make sure he is a superstar at the position. You need to make sure he is an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, whatever. You need to make sure he's a top 5 guy. And I think there's some question around Matt Ryan if he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. And this isn't to spite the Falcons. This is what you have to pay Matt Ryan. Cousins Jimmy G, Stafford, Derek Carr, none of them have won a playoff game in their career combined. The only one's Matt Ryan. The other 4 guys, 0 playoff wins, and they're all at the top 5 in contract. So that's what you have to give Matt Ryan, but I think that is going to hurt the Falcons down the line. You can't be given a quarterback, and in my opinion, Matt Ryan is an above-average quarterback. I don't see him as an elite quarterback. I see him sort of as that step below, and here's why. You know, he won 8 games, then he won 11, then he won 10. So he had a mediocre year, followed up with an incredible year. They were near the top of the NFL offenses in NFL history the year they went to the Super Bowl, but he blew a major Super Bowl lead. Everyone knows that.
That was coaching.
We don't need to go into that. He blew a big lead. That's just
had
fact.
A great game.
And then last year, we saw that with the loss of Kyle Shanahan. The offense took a big step back. We've sort of seen this with Matt Ryan. You know, over the course of Matt Ryan's career, you know, he went through a long stretch before they made the Super Bowl run of not making the playoffs. He won 4 games, 6 games, 8 games. So he's sort of been up and down. We've only seen one phenomenal year from Matt Ryan, and I'm a little bit worried that that 1 year that we saw 2 years ago is who the Falcons think they're getting. They think that Matt Ryan is the $30 million quarterback. I think it is a step below that. It is more the Matt Ryan we saw last year, which is good. You know, you have to pay that franchise quarterback, but I still think it's not worth the $30 million. You're not getting an MVP Matt Ryan. MVP Matt Ryan, that was a 1-year thing. Very good Matt Ryan, that's what you're going to see, but is very good worth $30 million? I don't know.
Very good with what the team has built is good enough, especially when you have a guy like Julio Jones who's out catching balls for you, and now we have Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu. So I think Matt Ryan has thrown for above 4,000 yards for every year since 2013, and last year took a dip.
Yeah, but 4,000 yards doesn't mean anything anymore.
The dip only below 4,500 yards was because of Sarkisian. He's thrown for 4,500 yards every year up till 2016. 2017 was an off year. Sarkisian definitely had some growing pains with that offense. And what we saw with his pick numbers being up, Matt Ryan's receivers having weaker hands, and there was.
But they weren't. So they weren't up. They were actually lower than what you would normally see from 2011.
Well, they were up from the previous year.
2011 to 2015. Matt Ryan threw 12, 14, 17, 14, and 16 interceptions. His MVP year, he only threw 7. He's only thrown less than 10 2 times in his career, every other time more than 10. So he's a guy who's going to throw more interceptions than not. Seems like 2016 was the aberration and not the other years. And, you know, you also worry, you're saying Sarkisian. Yeah, well, maybe Sarkisian isn't the fix, but I think the problem was the loss of Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's not walking back through that door. So you either have Sarkisian or you find a better offensive coordinator, but you're not going to find Kyle Shanahan again.
I think Matt Ryan is definitely a quarterback who can thrive in the system. And this is a very risky contract. I will concede to you about that. But I do believe this is just on the coaching now. We have our guy. I think the coaching needs to step up, and Sarkisian needs to elevate, because we have seen what the potential for that offense can be.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think Matt Ryan's sort of similar to Derek Carr in the sense, if you get him a great coaching staff, and the pieces around him are all there, then he could be an MVP candidate. If that's not there, then you're going to get a very good player who is going to win you a lot of games, but he might not be able to get you to a Super Bowl and get you to that promised land by yourself. With the team around him, sure, he can do it. He's worth the $30 million. But you need to make sure that team does not drop off at all, or that $30 million per year is not going to look good down the line. Okay, so moving on from the NFL, let's stick with some local Chapel Hill news. We have to go 8 miles from Chapel Hill for this. Go to Duke. Duke added another 5-star recruit to their 2018 draft class in Joey Baker. Joey Baker is 6'7" small forward from North Carolina. He was supposed to enroll in 2019. He's now enrolling 1 year earlier. So we will see Joey Baker on the court this fall for the Duke Blue Devils. Reminder, this is their fifth 5-star in this draft class. As North Carolina Tar Heel fans, are we worried about Duke's recruiting prominence recently?
There are 5 5 stars on this roster. All right. I mean, from what I've seen, Joey Baker, he's the 5-star recruit. He's probably gonna have to He's probably gonna be a bench role because I mean, the concentration of Duke's picks are at the small forward wing position with Zion, Reddish, and Barrett playing all the same position. Zion. We don't know how that's going to work out. He's probably not going to be able to space the floor as well, so Joey Baker's probably going to have to come on for him whenever Zion's not spacing the floor well enough. But this is terrifying. What is Mike Krzyzewski doing? How much money is he giving them? I mean, you know, like I heard a joke the other day. It's like, you know, a Duke player who doesn't go in the lottery round, they're taking a pay cut going to the NBA from when they go to Duke. I mean, literally, this guy is. He's out Calipari. I mean, he's completely gone to the one and done. You come in, you leave. I mean, we saw Bagley and all these guys this past class. They're all gone. They're all leaving. And I think Krzyzewski's been like hopping onto that bandwagon. But you know what? As a Tar Heel fan, I'm not necessarily too worried about this because knowing Duke, they're going to get really far. They're going to do great in the regular season. They're going to get to the tournament, and they're going to choke in the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16 like they do for the past 6 years. So suck it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that worried about Duke. You know, you get to a certain point, Duke's going to have the most talented team. You know, adding one more 5-star, you know, it's like a bell curve. Can they really get that much better? It's not linear. You know, you're not adding a 5-star and getting that much better. It all depends. They already have a bunch of 5-stars already there. They already have, you know, 4 to begin with. The number 1 rated player, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, number 2. Then the 5th rated player in the country, Zion Williamson, and the 12th, Trey Jones. So the talent is going to be there with Duke. It was there last year, and they had senior leadership in Grayson Allen, and it didn't work out. You know, you see in March the teams that have experience are the teams that make it far. We've seen that with our own UNC teams. We saw it, Marcus Page and Bryce Johnson. They were able to lead the team. They ended up losing to Villanova. Villanova's not a guy who are recruiting 5 5-stars a year. They build their teams through experience. And who just won? Villanova. Who won the year before that? North Carolina with Joel Berry, you know, with all these guys, Theo Pinson, with guys who have had experience, and Justin Jackson, and have been there, and they've done that. They've had experience in March, and they're able to not get flustered in big tournament situations, because you will be. To win a national championship, there's going to be a game in there where you got to get sort of lucky. You got to have that March Madness feel, hit a crazy shot, and not be, you know, not falter in a moment that's too big. And I think when you get all these Duke freshmen, you know, they haven't played with each other, they don't have the experience. There's nothing like playing in March Madness. It doesn't matter how big of games you played in high school, if you played in the state championship, if you played in the Max Preps National Championship. They're not as big as March Madness. They're not as big as the Final Four, and you need experience. In regards to North Carolina, we haven't been able to get the talent that I think we've wanted because of the scandal recently. But look at this. So in 2017's recruiting class, we did not have 1 5-star. We had 2 4-stars, Garrison Brooks and Jalek Felton. Jalek Felton's gone. So in reality, we had 1 4-star come into North Carolina last year. This year, we already have 2. We have Nazir Little, who's the 3rd-ranked national product. Some people argue he might be the best player in the country. We'll see. His stock is skyrocketing as of late. He's going to be good. There's still Kobe White as well, 22, 5-star, and Recon Black later. So North Carolina has their 5-stars. They don't have too many, and if they can just build the experience, then I'm not worried. You have Roy. Roy's shown he can do it without 5-stars, and now Roy has 2 more 5-stars.
I think to go along with what you were saying about the recruiting, how what we see is that veterans are winning more in the tournament. Villanova, what Jay Wright is doing there is, I think it's going to be looked back upon as a little bit of a turning point in how they're recruiting. Villanova, they aren't going for the top prospects, but they're going for those role player type of guys that they know like can fit into their system. And we know that Roy recruits to fit in their system. And we see like there is a plan for how these teams are recruiting. How Villanova had Omari Spellman and Michael Bridges and Jalen Brunson. Those guys fit into a niche on that team. Villanova's identity is they're a 3-point, extremely efficient offense. They're they're moving the ball around, and I think they do that well. And then with Roy Williams, he's basically essentially just upgrading from Joel Berry and Theo Pinson and getting Nasir Little and Kobe White. And I think he does have a plan there. I mean, and we're definitely going to have to probably look more for our bigs. But seeing Duke, there's just this past draft class they had, recruitment class, they had Bagley and they had Duval and they had all those guys. But now it doesn't seem like there's so much of a plan as there should be. I mean, there's just a ton of wing guys. I mean, they're all small forwards, and rather than guys who can fit into other positions on the floor, I think this is just a big talent play that Duke is going for. I don't know if this is going to form into an actual cohesive unit.
Yeah, I mean, talent will win you a lot of regular season games, so earn you a high AP ranking. We saw that last year at Duke, but you need talent and you need experience to win in March, and that's what UNC's been doing as of late, and Duke hasn't. Just because Duke gets one more 5-star doesn't mean it's going to change. I think UNC is gonna keep getting those W's in Cameron, in Chapel Hill, and late in March. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in to Tar Takes. We had another great edition, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you so much. This is Ryan Lipton and David Matlock.
Also, check out the app Relevnt. We are on Relevnt, and download the app.
Download it on the App Store. It's new technology, location based, really awesome. Check it out. It will be worth it.